Okay, we have some more news coming in. We've been told that the apparent bloodbath continues in the US markets. US markets have begun the new week with a massive sell-off, with Dow Jones falling as much as 1,100 points to a 52-week low. The S&P 500 is also at a 52-week low, having declined below the mark of 5,000. What's more important is the fact that the index is now in a bear market, meaning a 20% fall from the top. The tech-heavy Nasdaq, already in a bear market, has opened another 4% lower, having made a 52-week low of its own at 14,958 points. On that note, let me bring in Daniel Bordman as well. Daniel Bordman, what really has been the impact, and especially in Canada and other areas around? Also, what is it that you're learning from Europe? How are countries, leaders and others now responding and reacting to the markets crashing globally?
Yeah, I mean, Canada's pretty insulated from economic understanding. So, I mean, we're running an election right now, and so talks of the economic fallout of tariff, it's not really fitting with the liberal narrative. So the narrative here, it's not being pushed, but the economic devastation will be huge. I mean, we're talking about tariffs and counter tariffs on Canadian auto industry and all this. But the hard reality is the Canadian auto industry is the American auto industry, is the Canadian auto industry, is like part now tied into the Mexican auto industry. Like every American-made car has parts of it manufactured in Canada and Mexico and all around. So, parsing this stuff out isn't possible. If you just want to say, oh, well, we'll put high tariffs on Canada, and then the manufacturer will all come back to the United States. Well, then multiply that by every other industry you're trying to do this in, and how many more factories can you build in the United States, and how quickly can you build them? So, of course, the markets are crashing because, this has been tried before. America did this 105 years ago, 1920, the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, and that gave them a trade surplus instead of a trade deficit, and caused the Great Depression. I mean, I think Trump just doesn't like the word deficit. I think that's where we are in trade, is he just doesn't like the word deficit because it doesn't sound good, and surplus sounds good. But you have America, which is the largest economy in the world with the highest purchasing power in the world, which means if Canada and America trade, they have 10 times our population. It's nearly impossible for us to buy more things from America at a 10% of their population than they would buy from us. And that's a good thing for both countries. I mean, they're getting cheaper goods. We're getting, money coming in. They're also getting money coming in cheaper goods. Like, this is the benefits of free trade. And there's a case to be made of high tariffs on specifically China, because, China, you can argue, doesn't play in a fair system, right? Then you have the thing of, like, ultra low wages in authoritarian governments, where you can kind of just force a bunch of quasi slaves to work in a plant for 10 cents a day, right? This might actually be, you can argue that has some corrosive effects on Western markets, but this isn't a targeted attack on China to reduce their, military, and because, I mean, China is a threat to the world. And if this was a tariff scheme designed to undermine China and boost America, I mean, a lot of us could get behind it, but this is a willy-nilly pulling numbers out of your behind. Even when countries take tariffs off of American goods, they still slap tariffs onto those countries. So the economic destabilization is huge, because markets thrive on stability. And if this was a reasonable thing, where, like, if countries just said, okay, 0% tariffs, then America says, fine, 0% tariffs on you, and that was the out, then I think the markets would stabilize because there's some understanding. But there's no general understanding of how the Trump tariffs work. The formula the White House gave was a joke. Donald Trump's posting on social media that his plan is to crash the markets in some way, to have them rise from the ashes like a phoenix. And this really threatens to destabilize his entire platform across the board, because listen, we can all talk about bringing American manufacturing back, but, like, I mean, comic Dave Chappelle said it best: Americans want to buy Nikes, not make Nikes. Like, you want your kids to go to a sweatshop for $2 an hour making shoes. Like, if you're an American, no American wants that. So eventually, you're gonna need shoes, clothes, textiles, stuff from other countries, and most struggling Americans aren't going to say, oh, the cheap shoes that were $50 beforehand, well, now they're $120 because they're made in America. Like, eventually, when this hits everyone's pocketbooks, which is going to soon, they're going to turn. And like Trump's major appeal was, mean tweets, cheap gas, right? Joe Biden, inflation, printing money, all the Democratic, spend, print money, which increases the cost of living to everyone. That made the Democrats severely unpopular. But if Trump institutes like insane 1920 Smoot-Halley tariffs and then goes full, centralized planning on the global economy, it's going to crash the markets, and then it's going to hit people in the pocketbooks, and then they're going to flip back to the Democrats.
Okay, all right. On that note, some more news coming in. We're learning that Bangladesh